What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. There we go. Hey guys, it's Gary, and welcome to another episode of What If You Could. And today is a super honor. It's not every day I get to talk to a not only a wonderful, sweet guy that I've gotten to know over the years, but also someone who is so established and admired in his industry. So today we get to welcome Greg Cannom, and I'm just going to read his bio real quick so you get a feeling for who and what Greg is. And so Greg Cannom is an American special makeup effects artist. He is a recipient of several accolades, including 5 Academy Awards. I didn't stutter. That's 5 Academy Awards.
Four.
And
Four.
What's that?
Just 4.
Just 4. Okay.
And 1 Technical Achievement Award.
Well, that's still, you still got
But
it.
it's not an Oscar. It's
Oh,
not an
okay.
Academy Award.
You're going to have to explain that to me. So we got 4 Academy Awards, 2 Saturn Awards. He's been nominated for 4 Primetime Emmy Awards and 4 BAFTA Awards. Cannom is best known for his work on the films Hook, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Ms. Doubtfire, The Mask, Titanic, Bicentennial Man, Hannibal, The Passion of the Christ, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Vice, as well as hundreds of more, of course. For his contributions, he is honored with an Academy Award for Technical Achievement in 2005 and a Lifetime Achievement Award given by the Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild in 2018. And there's so much more, Greg, and I'm just going to let you fill in the blanks on that. But just thank you so much for being here and sharing with me today. And just I'd love to hear your story. I know you've got so much to share with us. So I guess it'd be with how the heck did you get started in all this stuff, and how did you get where you are?
Thank you for asking me being here. It's this is my first podcast I've ever done. But no, it started when I was young. I was born in the 50s, and I grew up in the 60s when I was a kid, and the movies back there had a lot to do with it. The TV shows, the movies I would go see when I was a little kid were The Time Machine with the Morlocks and the 7 Faces of Dr. Lao and all the great horror movies, of course, growing up on TV. And then the TV shows, The Outer Limits, had a lot to influence with me. And so I just started playing around with latex and cornflakes and and just started, getting books. And there were some good books that came out back then, very theatrical stuff, but also had some great film stuff in it. Work from Dick Smith on Little Big Man, where he aged Dustin Hoffman to 121. And I just studied those like crazy. And I don't know why. I never took art classes. I just was fascinated by it. And I worked at Knott's Berry Farm for 5 years on the log ride. And right when the first Halloween haunts happened, and at the same time I was going to Cypress College, which they were just building, and I started doing all the theater shows there. And I must have done over 200 theater shows in my lifetime, and aging people and character makeups and painting and really theatrical stuff, which really helped me in the long run. But Halloween Haunt at Knott's Berry Farm, I started the first one, and they wanted me to build all the rides, the mine ride and the log ride, and do all this in a very noisy pump room that I would have been deaf by now. And I just said, no, I'm not going to do it. But I did my own makeups, and I did a Planet of the Apes version one year and a Egyptian mummy the next year where my nose was gone, and they turned out pretty good.
How
And
old were you? How old were you at that time?
I was probably I don't remember, early 20s,
Right. Cool. Wow.
early 20s.
So you knew early on you just wanted to do this. This kind of hit you early.
It just hit me.
Yeah.
And then so I was in plays in Cypress College, but I did a lot. I would sit there and spend 8 hours doing shows like South Pacific and Polynesian people up and aging people, and just for 8 hours I sit in the makeup room in the college, and I'd be in the show, so I had to do everybody's makeup and every night, and I'd spend like 8 hours doing everybody, and then for an hour and a half, 2 hour show or whatever, and it was just like felt like such a waste. And I started doing prosthetics then, and with the Knott's Berry Farm stuff. I started doing prosthetics and making and sculpting prosthetics, like I did arsenic and old lace for one show, and did these great character makeups, little old ladies. And
So when you did prosthetics, does that mean that instead of spending all this time on the person doing the makeup, you kind of already had it set up in almost like a mask that you could toss in and save time?
it wasn't a mask, it was prosthetics, where it was like cheek pieces and bald caps or whatever. It was broken down into pieces. It's not just a mask you slide on. I
Got it.
literally would take 2 or 3 hours to glue a makeup on somebody and color it and everything. And it was very elaborate stuff. And like I did one show where this kid had to be bald in it, and he had to put on hats and wigs throughout the show. And uh, I also did The King and I for a high school production for a friend I knew, and he had to be bald, and he was, graduating from high school, and he didn't want to shave his head for it, so I did a bald cap, and because of these bald caps, I became known as like the Cannom cap, because this special rubber I found, but the glues would split the rubber, and I found a way of making it work to where I could do these incredible bald caps on people, and they would hold up for 3 hours of abuse, and
And you
people
figured
thought
that
they
out in college?
yes.
Wow. Wow.
And I was just starting to go to Hollywood. I took a makeup class, I remember, in the 70s, early 70s, and I knew more than the teachers did. So I thought, well, maybe I have a chance in this business. I don't know. So with all this, I just happened to start, doing all this incredible work in college and everything, and for other community colleges and high school.
Did you have like a victim when you were younger? Like, did you do this to your dog,
No,
or did you
just
have
myself.
it just started on yourself? No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, this poor hand has seen so much work on it, testing this and testing that, and burning my hand. And
So what was you went from Cypress College and then you go, I'm going to try to make a career out of this. And so you went to Hollywood and
I went to Hollywood. I lived in Buena Park at the time, and Anaheim and that. And then I uh, got a job at the post office, and I kept my work at the log ride, and that's when I started doing the elaborate stuff at the log ride. And I hated the post office, the bureaucratic crap that went on in that. So I quit, and then I
there's not a lot of creativity in the post office. I wouldn't imagine you'd fit in well there.
no, I didn't. In fact, it was funny. One time they'd call me in every day at 4 in the morning. They'd call me in and days off. And I finally said I was sick, and I went in to pick up my check because I wanted it, and made myself look sick with makeup. I did do that. And
That's
then,
awesome.
but I was seeing the work of Dick Smith, who he did, The Exorcist had just come out, 72, I think.
Mhm.
And I saw that film and I read the book and I saw it the first screening at the first movie in Westwood and day after Christmas, and I couldn't believe it. And when I saw that film, it freaked me out so much and it was so real. And that's when I went, I have to do this for a living. And Rick Baker, who's a big time makeup artist, he worked with Dick Smith on it. And Rick was in LA and he was starting his career doing a lot of big movies. And he played King Kong in the one with Jessica Lange. And he was into apes and monsters and everything. And then I called him up and one day and talked to him. And I went in and showed him my work and he was impressed with it. And a month later, I started working with him. Wow. On films like The Fury, which was a film about telekinesis and everything. I did my first scar in it and I helped him with it. And at the same time, I started working with Rob Bottin, who did The Thing and that. And I, with Rob, did some work on The Incredible Melting Man and Rick's film. And I just started doing that. And then I started doing my own films. And they're bad little movies that were, the Mistress of the Apes, where I turn these bodybuilders into ape men.
Is that poster that's hanging in the living room?
Yes. The poster is the best thing about that movie.
It's a great poster.
It was an incredible poster, I think by Boris. I think, but the movie was it's unbelievable. But it was my first movie. It's fun to talk about, and I can't watch it without just laughing my ass off and crying. So bad. But I started working on
did The Thing come out around the same time as The Blob? The movie The Blob. Remember the movie The Blob?
No, The Blob was earlier than that. The Thing.
Okay. I always loved that movie.
We're talking about the remake of The Thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Thing, the original Thing from outer space was the black and white one. Which was a great film, I thought. And then the remake, Rob Bottin got that, and then I started to help him on that, but then I ended up leaving and doing my own work and started doing my own stuff. And with Rick over the years, I worked on Thriller. I did a couple of
Michael Jackson's Thriller?
Yeah, Rick Baker got it, and he asked me to help him on it, and I did two of the lead dancers in it, and I'm in the film. I'm the very last zombie as they pop dance and walk off out of the graveyard, and Vincent Price laughs.
Yeah.
And then I turn into the camera and they do a close-up on me, and now they've turned me into a 3D effect that comes at the camera.
That's awesome.
That's me, and I forgot I was in the show until when he passed away. I saw that 10 million people had seen Thriller that week, and I went, "Oh, that's right, I'm in that." I'd totally forgotten I was in that.
I remember that final zombie. I don't see the resemblance.
The curly hair, that was my hair. And my own makeup, and it was that was a lot of fun. I tried to be in a lot of films I've done, but so anyway, I just started with Rick and that. And then I worked with Rick on Greystoke, Tarzan of the Apes in England, building these incredible ape suits. And I learned how to do suits from him and everything. And then when I got back, I just started the one that got me going. Actually, I did a lot of movies, a lot of TV, just a lot of everything. But the one that got me going was Hook. I did the makeup in that, but I did Maggie Smith's makeup as Gran Wendy. She was about 50 at the time, and I made her 90 something. And I had a week to do it in, and I had no time, and I did it and did a test makeup on her a week after I got the head cast of her from England, and they loved it. I mean, they said it was like one of the best makeups Spielberg had ever seen, and I was just like, I asked for 6 weeks, and I'm just like, you people are so lucky. I was just like, what would you have done if this didn't work? Because I started shooting. The next day we started shooting with it, and it was supposed to be for 5 days. And I was a huge fan of Maggie Smith. I'd seen her in plays and everything, and so I was a wreck working with her. And then it ended up being like 25 days, and it just. But when it came out, it was funny because I went on film jobs after that, and everybody I went to talk to about age makeups, they all were like, "Oh God, we're so scared to death because we just saw this movie with Bette Midler and it was not good, and we're scared to death of the age makeup." And then I'd show them the Maggie Smith makeup, and they'd go, "Oh my God, it's amazing." And so because of that Bette Midler film, I got about 10 years really good work out of it, doing all these age makeups in films.
What Bette Midler was that? The Rose?
No, it was For the Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
They're,
when you're doing the makeup,
and I had begged the director. I said, I'm so much better than these guys are. Please, I'll do it for free, a test to show you. And they hit, no, they just won the Oscar for Dick Tracy. And they're friends of mine. And I couldn't say anything. And so I went, okay. And so after that happened, it ends up, I get 10 years work out of it, you know,
awesome.
from it. So I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say when you like I said, worked with Spielberg on Hook, and so
Yes.
when you work with, I mean, obviously Spielberg's a big dude, right? So I mean, is it the producer, the director, who comes to you and says, yeah, I like that look, you're going the right direction, or I kind of want more of this, or do they not mess with you? You just do it because they know who you
No,
are, or who do you work, who
it
approves your
depends.
work, or whatever.
Well, I do. I decided a long time ago, if I'm going to work in this business, I'm going to make me happy. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm certainly going to listen to what the director wants, and especially what the actor. I have to please the actor. He's got to wear it, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I just realized a long time ago that I have to be happy with it, or it's not going to work. So, like Hook, I got it, and I said I needed 6 weeks, and I had talked to Spielberg and showed him some of my work, and then I had 1 week to do it, and I did it, and I got so much work out of it. But then on Hook, but then I got to do the mermaids, the mermaid tails, and that in Hook, and the elf ears, and Robin's fat suit, and just and the bald headed, the white hair on Hook, on Dustin Hoffman, his look at the end, where it was a foam rubber bald cap with all the hair punched into it to look real thin white hair on that, which had never been done. And because of that, I get a call from Sigourney Weaver saying, can you do my bald cap? I just talked to him about Hook, and can you do this for me? And I go, it's never been done before, because she had shaved her head for Alien 3, and she had grown her hair back like for 6 months, and she had the thickest hair I've ever seen in my life. And she said, can we do that and do a bald cap and punched hair and everything? I go, I don't know anybody that's ever done this before. So I had Stuart Artingstall, my hair guy, who does the incredible suits and everything. He punched the head in, and it was a foam bald cap, and it was so thin in the front where I had to glue it onto her skin. It had to be so thin, but then the hair all punched in one at a time over her entire head. Took him 10 days, 12 hours a day of punching hair into this one bald cap. You could use it once and throw it away because all the edges were destroyed after you tried to take it off that day. So I did one bald cap, and they're just like looking at me. I'm trying to get it on her head, line it up, and trying to get her hair glued down with this special water-based glue to her head, and stretch this ball cap over it. And it was, the director'd come in and he'd just keep looking at it going, oh God, it's not going to work. And I finally got it down, and I got it, and it worked, and they shot
what movie was that for?
This was Alien 3.
Oh, wow.
Alien 3, where she's bald at the end, where the thing bursts out of her chest.
Yeah.
There was about 5 quick shots we had to shoot, new shots to put it all together. And you see the film and you can't tell which ones are which. Yeah. Luckily, it worked. Yeah. And she was happier than poop, because she didn't have to shave her head, and she lived in New York in the winter, and she was just so happy. And then I told them, the production company at the time, I said, don't ever call me again. I will never do this again. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And then, of course, months later, they call me up. We need to shoot a poster. And I go, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going on vacation. I already have a plane ticket. And they're, money's no object. And I went, what do you mean money's no object? What do you want? I said, oh, fine, I want 10,000 a day. And they went, okay. And I'm just like, because they would have had to have paid her a fortune to have shaved her head. And I'm just like, oh God, here we go again. And then the poor Stewart, we did 2 heads and shot the poster. I went to New York with Annie Leibovitz, and she kept walking in the room going, oh, this isn't going to work. This isn't good. And I'm just like, oh geez, here we go again. But then she shot it and sent the poster and that, and with these bad pictures from the film that I got, that we could have even done it better if I'd had these great pictures. They finally got to me at the very end. But anyway, that was like, so I was glad to help out on that. But you just thrown into these things, like The Mask with Jim Carrey.
Well, The Mask is amazing. The Mask is
incredible. And I had a week to do that. I had 10 days to do that makeup.
How did they just call you at the last minute?
Because they got a week. They wait, and it happens. And luckily I'm fast, and I was scared to death because of his mouth. He can open his mouth 2.5 inches, teeth to teeth, which is amazing. And we made these big piano teeth for him, which we never thought he was going to be able to talk in, because they're going to have to redub the whole film and everything. And he put them in his mouth, and he could talk with them, no problem. And I did the test makeup Sunday, the day before shooting started. And the only thing I changed in it was that I had these beautiful chartreuse contact lenses that I put in, but it made them so demonic looking that we took them out. And it was the same with Mrs. Doubtfire. I had 2 weeks to come up with that makeup. They waited till the end, and then they decided this and that. And I finally, didn't want to use prosthetics. And Robin was like, what, are you crazy? So I did a test on Robin. I did 1 week before shooting started for that. And I did a very realistic makeup on Robin Williams. And it was, age spots and things. And the only difference was on that, I had made these contact lenses, Hazel. And so he looks so different that we decided not to use the contact lenses, so you could still see Robin's eyes in it.
Yeah.
And then V. Neal, who applied the makeup.
Did you win the Academy Award for Miss Doubtfire and Hook?
No, I was nominated for Hook. I have 10 nominations.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is a funny story too, but
you did win it for Miss Doubtfire though, right? One of them.
But yes, Neil and Yolanda Tusing, who did the wigs. V applied it every day, and she softened it up and made it more rosy cheek looking and everything. And he.
What was the year you were nominated for 2 in the same year? 2 Oscars, 2 Academy.
I don't remember.
I gotta look that up. I remember I looked it up, and there was 1 year that you were nominated for 2 movies at one time.
Yeah.
It was 1993. You were nominated for Bram Stoker's Dracula and Hoffa, in the
Oh
same
yeah.
year. That's
Oh yeah.
pretty freaking cool. And you won for Dracula.
Yeah. That was the year. Okay. Yeah, I was up for Hoffa. That's another film. See, I have all these stories. Jack
That's what we're
Nicholson.
here for.
Jack Nicholson, he wanted a nose in that. And I was told by his makeup artist that he just wanted a nose tip. And I go, it's all up here in the bridge in that. It has nothing to do with his nose tip. So I did what I wanted to and did a bridge of the nose part of it. And then at that point, V took over the makeup on the show and she applied it. And he goes, that's all I wanted. And I'm just like, oh, geez. That's why I do it the way I want to, what is going to work, I think, the best. And still there's problems on films. I was thrown into a makeup with Russell Crowe on I did several with
Was
Russell.
it A Beautiful Mind for Russell Crowe? A Beautiful
Beautiful
Mind?
Mind. No, it was the one before that.
Gladiator?
No. Before that, it was about the smoking business.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember. I know which one you're talking about. I just can't remember the name.
Wygand was the character,
Oh,
in
okay.
real life.
Yeah.
And with him, I was so into that. People had done tests on him and it looked terrible. And I flew back to do a test on him and I did a quick prosthetic. I got his life cast and did quick nasal prosthetic in silicone and in foam latex. Silicone was just starting to come around and it looked incredible, but the edges we couldn't get down right on the silicone and the mold was destroyed for the silicone and it was going to start shooting in a few days. And so I flew back there and I did a test on him and it looked pretty good. And he shaved his head for that and everything. And they liked it. And I went, oh, this isn't going to work. And I had my suitcases with me and I walked out of the office to go to the hotel. And then I went back and I go, oh God, they're going to yell at me. And I go, this isn't going to work. We're in Kentucky shooting. The heat with the prosthetics, the foam rubber will never stand up to the humidity and the heat. And Russell was very difficult with me. That first test, he just kept talking and turning his head. And it was like I wasn't even there. And I'm just like, so I went to the producer and I go, look, I don't like you. I don't like Russell. The director, I'm not sure about. So I think we should do another test tomorrow, me just using stipple, and we'll see how it goes. So the director came down and he goes, okay, let's do that. He was pretty nice about it. And so the next morning I did this test with just stipple, where it's stretching and skin and special latex, and it makes wrinkles. And he had gained some weight, so I did a lot of painting. And I'd learned all that painting. I had just done Titanic with Gloria Stewart, where I learned how to do this new technique I came up with of painting the lines in and raking it with highlights on a special brush all over the whole makeup to accent the wrinkles and everything. So instead of just aging somebody 10 years with stipple, I could age somebody 25, 30 years and maybe a neck waddle on somebody. And that was it. And so for Russell, I spent a week with notes and trying to figure out how I did the steps on Titanic and to put them in an order that I could do every day and get it to work right. And, try this and try that, and tattoo colors, which stayed on all day long in the heat and everything. And I would use those to dab on to give shadows of double chins and nasal folds and everything, and got the stipple down, but the stipple would just come up because of the heat. And I found a way of using a acrylic new glue that come out on the skin first, which waterproofed it really well, so it would hold up pretty good. And even then, the makeup would still melt. It was so hot, and I'd have to touch him up with makeup.
The thing,
So,
And when the camera is so darn close, how do they not see all the stuff you're throwing on their face?
It's so subtle, and the camera you get away with. See, this is something I learned when I started with Rick Baker on The Fury. I saw these makeups, William Tuttle, who I became friends with, and I got his makeup from him that I sell for prosthetics. He was doing the makeup on The Fury, and he did these heavy makeups on people. Everybody, the straight makeups, the beauty makeup. They were in person with my eye. I could see it. And I was like, wow, how can you do a makeup that heavy for an actor? And then when I saw the movie, because it's film and a piece of plastic that's blowing up on a giant screen, you didn't see that. You just saw this beautifully blended makeup that looked like skin. Mm-hmm. And that's when I learned, like I worked on The Howling with Rob, and I learned then that you can get away with murder. And I'd layer on makeups for the horror aspects of it, like 5 layers of makeups of reds and blacks underneath this color and that. And in person, it looked so caked on. It was unbelievable. But on film, it looked like it was translucent, like you could see through it. And that's when I learned you can get away with murder on film. But this new stuff was so subtle that it was weird. Once he walked out of the trailer in the sunlight and that, you just didn't see it anymore. It was so subtle, but it was effective. And because of Russell, and I did the makeup that day, and the director, he loved it. And the director was great. Michael Mann, he just like, add more here. And he really knew what he was talking about. And I ended up doing Muhammad Ali with Will Smith with him.
Oh, wow.
Which was a whole new set of problems. But, and then I did the makeup that day, and I just went, oh, there's nobody I can show how to do this. It's so complicated. There's no, because I said, I'm gone. You find somebody else to replace me. I want off this film. And then Russell was still being difficult with me. And it was about the 3rd day of shooting, and the one producer had come in, you better make sure those age spots match up every day. And I showed the makeup artist, a friend of mine, and I showed him, I go, look, I did the Big Dipper on Russell's forehead. And I showed him how I did the Big Dipper with the stars going down his face. And it was the Big Dipper I literally put on Russell's face. And he was laughing. And
that's great.
So after 3 days, we were sitting in the room waiting to shoot. Russell goes, come here. He said, you see any powder on my eyelashes? If there's any that shows up on film, there's going to be a big problem. And I went, if they see powder on your eyelashes close up, they're going to see a whole lot of other crap going on before that.
Exactly.
And I went and sat back down, and he just went. And about the 3rd day, a picture of him came out in the newspaper. The neighbors came over from next door. They're all like, oh my God, you look just like him. The real guy. You look incredible. Everybody went off on how much he looked like the guy, and how, he was 30 at the time. I aged him to 50. And everybody was just going off on how incredible he looked. And from that moment on, man, anything I needed, Greg, you need to touch me up. It was just like, I really liked Russell. He was fun.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.